Hello. Sorry, caught me having a drink of water. All right. We are going to do now Why McDonald's Fries Taste So Good by Eric Schlosser. Schlosser is an investigative journalist, kind of an interesting one. Fast Food Nation is the book this is sort of condensed down from. And uh, again, it's sort of a deep examination of the fast food industry and where and he does everything from um, the way the employees can be treated or what it is like to work in there to the, what the farms are like and how some of the cattle, for example, that they make the hamburgers out of are made, and all the way to the flavors that this the piece focuses on. And again, when for you, all of you, when you're working on your papers, right? Try to come up with that really interesting question. We've done a few now. Steven Pinker's. Has violence declined, and if it has, why, and how has it? Also, why do drug dealers still live with their mothers, right? What it was like to break that down. And then there is, what am I missing here? Oh yeah, got Christopher Hitchens, which at the time it was a little more topical, but at the time that was a major raging debate, is whether waterboarding was torture or not. And then whether we should do it or not. And but again, he found a unique way to examine that. Why McDonald's French fries taste so good? Again, it's a beautiful simplicity of the question itself, and the examination of it takes us into some fascinating places. And one thing I guess I'd like you to pay attention to in this piece would be the amount the amount of different kinds of research he actually does do to cobble this sort of piece together, and the different angles he uses, even the different disciplines, to sort of illuminate a subject. Everything, at first we get, again, there's plenty of just very good, hard, gumshoe sort of investigative journalism here. He manages to get an appointment and get into a place that's extremely secretive, and very few places people have been, and almost no one knew about that, until he sort of said it. We still don't really get the name of it, or maybe we just got the name of the company, but that's about it. We don't get the name of any of the company, whether it's Burger King or Wendy's or McDonald's, or who it is they're actually working for, right? But anyway, we get that, and you get some great details, right? The hissing vents, the men in the lab coats, lots of telling details is also part of good writing, and you get lots of that here. You get some of the amazing sort of, I guess, 2 or 3 drops from an eyedropper of this lemon flavored chemical tincture will make an entire swimming pool taste like lemonade, or might not have been lemonade, but whatever it was. Um, you know, that the food coloring is the same kind of the colors of food is the same thing. Colors, makeup, again, a lot of just interesting. He had to sign that non-disclosure form going into it to sort of accentuate the secretiveness of it. Lots of cool telling details that sort of say a lot and help get his point across. And again, keep that in mind. That is how you tell stories, right? That's how you get people to remember. Not explaining, how wrong it is or everything, right? A lot of imagery here, very visual piece. But also, again, I got a little bit away there. Sorry. The different kinds of research we're getting, and you get just the good old-fashioned investigative journalism I just described. You also get at one point a history of, and again, you can almost take this out of a history textbook or a Wikipedia page. You know what I mean? There's nothing real fancy about this. But in some ways, the history of the world is the history of taste, right? And taste is always driven mankind, humankind, and Christopher Columbus discovered this country looking for spices, right? And it's so much of the trade of the early world was driven by the pursuit of spices. Again, we're living in a world that's so abundant with these things. We almost, it seems almost impossible to us, but. Anyway, so and again, a brief history of the search for spices as being a driver of human exploration and expansion to other continents in general. You then get a scientific breakdown of how we taste everything from chewing, right, masticating food, to the flavor compounds, to the olfactoral sense and how it's attached to it, to you got that crazy little experiment, right, with the blue steak, and people literally got sick, even though it was just flavorless food diet. It had the steak was fine. Again, that added a lot of color to it as well, right? He threw in a lot of sort of industry jargon. He had that list of crunchiness, rubbery, all the sort of foods for mouthfeel and how he really breaks down the science of taste itself and what these guys are working with. And we also get a kind of a whimsical sort of look at the scientists themselves and how, first of all, the talent of these guys, which is sort of shocking a little bit. And they're walking around in lab coats, and that they were very cosmopolitan, according to the writer, and and the way they would talk about their craft, like composing tastes, was a lot like composing music, right? And there were the bass flavor, and then and a couple of sort of lighter flavors sort of set down on top of that, and some that that are time. I mean, it was the amount of science that went into it was kind of amazing. And also, I think important probably for all of us to keep in mind that's these are the level of it was collection of extremely smart guys who were paying a lot of money to figure out what we really like, and this is part of why we were so addicted to food, and so addicted to bad food, and how potato chips, you can't just eat one, right? It's like, and these are being scientifically engineered and tested over and over and over again to hijack this sort of. I mean, that is a primal drive, what we like to taste, and it evolved to make us survive, right? Sugar tastes sweet is the exact opposite taste of poison, which is extraordinary bitterness, right? Poison. So if anything that tastes sweet was safe to eat, so our hairier, shorter ancestors was out climbing around in the trees, fruits were a very good thing. But now that we live in a world that can take the glucose, the sugar content in fruit, and kind of create these confections of tons of, and it basically is salt, fat, and sweet. They're the 2 to 3 tastes, and it's the combination of those the things. Oddly enough, it seems like fat is the thing that doesn't make you very fat of everything, and it's really carbohydrates. The weight gain is. Basically a hormonal response that is insulin is the hormone that does it, and it's really your sort of natural glucose sort of intake or sugar intake that drives that. Anyway, it was also a very entertaining piece, and ends it has that great ending where he thinks he's blindfolded. He thinks they're grilling hamburgers, or it smells just like they're grilling hamburgers. And then he, takes the blindfold off, and all he sees is a strip of paper, which is just a little drop of that tincture on it, and a flavorist with a grin is how he likes it, almost like that Cheshire grin from Alice in Wonderland. Anyway, it's just sort of a fascinating, packed piece, and a real example of how imaginative you could be, even again with the simplest. It would really not take that long to look up. Yeah, either you can Google it, go to a science textbook, and just kind of pull enough out to write a paragraph or two on the science of human taste and how it works. They really added such a richness, texture, I think, to this piece. And the same for, again, the looking up the history of spices. He probably he's a well-educated guy, just having some knowledge of that in the beginning, and literally encyclopedia, Wikipedia lookup or something. Even though Wikipedia shouldn't be used as a source, you can certainly bounce out to the real source from it. And along with his own investigation, really added a lot of texture to this piece.